Hack-Moto video. So this is a bike that hopefully you're all very familiar with, and somehow, despite seeming like only yesterday, I've now owned it for a year, and in that time covered just shy of 6,000 miles. So we thought I'd do a little video of essentially my 1 year review of owning this bike from start to finish, all the things I've done with it in terms of where I've been on it, the kind of riding I've done, and also the parts I've added to it. I'll give you a good idea of what F900GS ownership is like, and perhaps give you some pointers if you've got an F900GS of your own. So we'll get straight into it. We're going to start the story right from the beginning. So I bought this bike from Group 1 Brighton. I bought it from their salesman Brendan, who is no longer their salesman because he's sat behind the camera and now works for Hack-Moto. That experience was absolutely brilliant, and it's a big part of why he's ended up here. I traded in my F800GS, which I like that bike, but I never really got on with it. But I tried an F900GS demo bike about a year before I bought one, and basically can get it out of my mind. So it's the first brand new bike I've ever bought, and the sort of buying process was absolutely flawless. And I kind of decided the bike was really nice, and although I like doing a lot of trail riding and sort of green laning and off-roading, that I would try and not do too much of that and look after it. Oh.
Sorry about that. Did I cause that?
As you can probably see, that hasn't really lasted. The bike has had a year of probably some of the hardest use that I think anyone out there will put one of these through. I've, as I say, done 6,000 miles. Most of that has been off-road. I've ridden it from the north coast of Spain to the south coast of Portugal and back again, nearly all off-road. I've done loads of off-roading in the UK. I've ridden it in Kent, Sussex, Hampshire, Dorset, Devon, Cornwall, off-road. It really has done everything, and it perhaps shows it a little bit. It's not had the best time of things, but I think that's maybe why, as Hack-Moto, we can really explain what these bikes go through and apply the expertise to make sure that any upgrades you do carry out are carried out in the correct way. I have actually done quite a lot to this bike. It's been through necessity for some of it. Other bits are just things I really wanted. So I'll crack on. I'll go from the front to the back. If you have any questions, just drop them in the comments and we will answer as quickly as we possibly can. These bikes have been out for a couple of years now, but there's a lot of things that perhaps I've done that others haven't, which we've highlighted in previous videos and have been really popular and caused a lot of interest and questions. So hopefully a quick reminder of what's been done and the bits I've done since those videos will spark some interest and give you guys something to feast upon in terms of knowledge in running an F900GS, whether it's on the road or off. Right, so we're going to start, as I say, at the front, at the top. So a more recent addition I've done is I've retrofitted a keyless nav mount to this bike. So pretty much any F900GS, 1300GS, 1250GS and non-GS models as well, previous to about now, have a nav mount that has a big sort of key barrel in the side to unlock your nav. So you can secure it to your bike, which is great, but it's a really bulky unit. It's not particularly attractive to look at. And I saw that the F900GS for 2026 has a keyless version, which I've also seen on other BMW bikes. I borrowed Andy's R1300RS, which had the keyless version on it, where it's essentially a smaller front end bike. They obviously bought out on that first. So I've managed to retrofit this. We do this as a kit on the website as well. So check that out. We currently only have it listed for F900GS, but I believe it will fit pretty much anything. So as we confirm fitment, we'll add it. But in all honesty, I can give you a pretty confident nod that that will fit pretty much anything. So that's really cool. It's electronically locking. So when the bike's unlocked or ignition on, you just press a button on the bottom and then you can just take the nav off and clip it back on rather than have to find your key, turn it, pull a lever, wiggle it a bit, hope it's clicked in or out. And then, yeah, and then when you don't have your nav on there, you're left with this huge piece, which really, to be honest, I think lets the rest of the bike down in terms of its tech and neatness. So that's that. In terms of the screen, I've done some coding work, so I've got additional heated grip modes. I don't think I did much else for the moment. There might be more. Another upgrade I've done is MG Bike Tech folding levers, which I am really chuffed with. These are the slightly shorter versions. I found that the factory levers, I'd quite often pinch my fingers. When you're riding with two fingers, I'd pinch my outer fingers, which isn't very nice, and especially if you're doing some potentially fairly leery clutch control, it's really not very comfortable. So yeah, when you go to pop the front over something, to crush your fingers in the process isn't something I'd really recommend. So yeah, really pleased with them. Those are on our website. They do a long version as well, so it's not just that you have to have a short version, but they're really, really nicely CNC machined and folding and adjustable and do everything I could possibly want. They come with a load of different color options too. So moving down, I've got Denali DL4s on the front with yellow lenses. I really just want some extra lighting, so we did a video all about this, which again we'll link to below, which actually I filmed down this very green lane. I am lucky enough that I can commute, part of my commute being off-road, and especially during the winter, it's quite difficult to see. The headlight on this bike's good, but it's nowhere near as good as those DL4s, which are governed by a Hex EasyCan. I'm now going to jump slightly backwards because that's under here. The Hex EasyCan is bloody brilliant. It plugs in to essentially the CAN bus of the bike. It's plug and play. There's no splicing or anything like that needed, and it takes power straight from the battery. And then it basically acts like an intelligent bank of switches, relays, fuses, everything in one, and it's teeny. So that controls the lights. There's no extra switches or anything. It takes all of its signals from the bike's switches. So when I go to main beam on the bike, through the CAN bus, it knows about it, and it does whatever I've told it to do with the lights, which in my case is turned to 100%. And you can program all sorts of different things with that. I also have that Hex EasyCan powering my quad lock phone charger, essentially just to neaten it up so I'm not having multiple things coming off the battery. So it's all powered through that. Really, really neat. Just one of my favourite products, which is on the website as well. We're more than happy to advise you on what that can do and what it can't do, but it's such a flexible and brilliant bit of kit. So yeah, it's not just F900GSs, that fits to most modern bikes, and there's also options to plug into bikes that don't have CAN bus and basically use them as a standalone controller, which is really cool. So that's that side of things. Those are mounted to Cross Pro crash bars, upper and lower. These are, as I mentioned in videos before, they're a lightweight heat-treated aluminium. I've found them really good. This bike has taken some pretty massive high-speed crashes, and they've held up really well. I have managed to bend them very slightly. I think, in all honesty, what I'm doing with the bike is probably pushing the limit of you know, a relatively lightweight crash bar, but no real plans to change them anytime soon. They've been absolutely solid. The other thing at the front, actually one of my favourite upgrades, is the Nitron suspension. So Nitron borrowed this bike. We did a video all about it. So it's got TVT 25 front shocks and an R1 rear shock, which is their Adventure series. So it's got a third valve in it, which is basically a bottom out valve. So rather than hitting bump stops really hard, this, even when you use all of the suspension travel, rides really well. Doesn't give you that kickback through the steering or anything like that that you can have with other shocks. So yeah, that's probably another one of my favourite upgrades. This bike was a non-Enduro Pro model, so it just had the standard type of suspension, which I found okay when I was riding it, until I put the Nitron on, and then it made me realise what a huge difference there was, especially at the back. I found the back would bounce quite a bit. If you hit a small bump even on the road, it would just, you know, bounce down the road a little bit. Whereas the Nitrons have absolutely fixed that. They've got loads of adjustability. I've got them about where I'd like them to be. And yeah, I can't rave about them enough. Moving backwards, we have a few little bits and bobs going on down here. So I'm a massive BMW nerd, especially when it comes to parts diagrams and retrofits and things like that. So although this was a relatively minor one in terms of retrofit, This is an optional extra, which is the frame protector retrofit kit. So it's basically just a few pieces that, especially when you're wearing enduro boots like I am now, gives the bike that bit more protection, especially in trophy colours where you've got a white frame. It's very quickly going to mark. Durable though it is, if you're on it a lot and scuffing your boots against it, that's not going to last too long. Moving down a little bit more, we've got this here, which is the Akrapovic link pipe. So that gets rid of the huge resonator box that sits under there. I get questions about that all the time, about how this bike does without a cat and things like that. And that is not the case with that link pipe. So the cat is in front here. That link pipe purely gets rid of a silencer. So it doesn't affect the bike's running. If it does, then something else is going on, because there's no way that something that far behind the lambda sensor should be causing any issues at all. And I think it really brings out the character of the bike in terms of sound. It's not too loud, but when you're having a good time on it, you can hear it far more, and it makes a far more enjoyable noise. We also have a Cross Pro bash plate down there. Again, that's had a really hard time and has held up really well. So the trophy model has a slightly different bash plate underneath, which lasted okay, but was pretty mangled by the time I took it off. So yeah, an upgrade was definitely needed. So that Cross Pro one is another really good bit of kit from those guys. I retrofitted a centre stand as well. You can't actually spec that from factory, you have to retrofit it. So again, that's available on our website. It's relatively straightforward to fit and just makes life easier, getting the rear wheel in and out, having to work on the bike. Yeah, highly recommended. Another retrofit I did was the adventure side stand, they call it. So it's just basically got a bigger foot on it, so that if you're on softer ground, your side stand doesn't just dig into the ground and your bike fall over. We've also got a Cross Pro quick shifter protection piece, which I've seen quite a few stories online of people drop these bikes or anything, it can damage the quick shifter, which I think is over £1,000 to replace. Yeah, I'm really glad I did that, and I haven't had any problems with damage to that. Just below that, got a Wunderlich side stand switch protection piece, which, to be honest, I just bought because I was buying some bits from someone and they had those and I wanted to make the most of the shipping costs. We will have those on our website soon, but having seen the troubles that Adam Ryman's had, he did an enduro event on one of these and basically smashed the side stand switch to pieces. I'm really glad I've got that, and actually looking at it now, you can see where it's been hit quite a few times and has done its job of protecting the side stand switch. So very, very grateful, because otherwise my bike would be stuck. I do also sometimes run a Hack-Moto rear rack setup. I've taken it off the bike for now, just because I haven't got any trips coming up or anything, and quite like the look of it, sort of simplified. The final thing, and I can't believe that I think I'm on my 5th rear tyre on this bike, since owning it. To be fair, one set was the road tyres this bike came on, which I've still got. They've only done about 300 miles. But the rest of them, I've been tearing through rear tyres, enjoying myself far too much. And I found that various tyre brands just literally haven't lasted more than about 800 miles. So I am now on Anlas Capra X's. It's not their most extreme tyre, but I found these absolutely brilliant. The rear is almost done, but I've had these on here for really quite a long time. I can't remember in terms of mileage, but certainly a heck of a lot more than the other tyres I've had on the bike that have lasted 5 minutes, and also find grip and the way they feel to be better than anything else I've tried. These are available from us. We're working on all the website listings. Hopefully they'll be up by the time this video comes out. If not, just drop us a call. We can supply them. We can also supply the more extreme rally versions or their more roadie options. And that is, I believe, about that. The final thing I have added, which I haven't actually used yet, mostly because we're in the middle of a heat wave and I'm absolutely boiling right now. I've also got a heated gear plug under here, which is all run through the EasyCan. So essentially, when I turn on my heated grips to their various levels, I've got a heated vest that plugs into that, and it'll all be operated through that heated switch thing to turn it up and down, which is really neat and another great bonus of the Hex EasyCan. But yeah, I believe that's about that for modifications. Would I have benefited from the Enduro Pro version? In all honesty, I don't think so. The main difference is, from memory, and as of a year ago, I knew the catalogue pretty much inside out in terms of all the spec. But the main differences are bar risers and the suspension and an M Endurance chain. I still haven't ridden an Enduro Pro version, but based on feedback I've heard, I think the Nitron suspension is far superior to what comes on an Enduro Pro model. I'd really like to try them both side by side to really be able to comment properly on that. But I'm absolutely blown away by this Nitron suspension and the difference to standard, whereas from what I've heard, Enduro Pro is better than standard, but perhaps not the same colossal difference. So I wouldn't benefit from that. Bar risers, I've actually wondered about. I'm not particularly tall. I just find after quite a bit of off-road standing up that I am sort of crouching a little bit. That's another one from the retrofit catalogue that I've priced up and is on our website and actually in stock. But I really enjoy riding this bike off-road and have done all day for days, day after day, and never actually found it that much of a problem. So I don't want to ruin the feel that I've got with it. So I don't think I benefit there. The M Endurance chain I probably would benefit from. So this is the original chain and sprocket set after 5,000 miles, 6,000 miles. And it is, I perhaps haven't looked after it as well as I could, mostly because I've been doing big dusty trips abroad and things like that. And time isn't always on your side to do chain maintenance, which does pay me a little bit, but it is what it is. So the chain now is pretty knackered. I have got a chain and sprocket set on the way that haven't arrived yet. And actually one really important thing to note is that pretty much everywhere online, if you put in F900GS chain and sprocket sets, you are offered a 44 tooth rear sprocket. And these don't have a 44 tooth rear sprocket, they have a 47 tooth rear sprocket, which is a little bit unusual and so not completely straightforward to obtain. Make sure, whether you're ordering from us, we'll make sure that we list it correctly. Or whether you're ordering anywhere else, make sure you get 47 tooth rear sprocket, 17 tooth front. That is the correct spec for these bikes. And yeah, as I say, pretty much everywhere online lists it as 44 teeth. So be very careful with that. Overall, I have zero regrets not getting the Enduro Pro package. I kind of like that this is in some ways my own little take on what the Enduro Pro could have been. So yeah, I love it. I wouldn't change it. Color-wise, would I have done anything different? No, is the short answer. I was really, really close to getting the Sao Paulo yellow version of this bike, which has red subframes and red accents, and I still really like those, but this being the trophy version, it comes with the better handguards and the sump guard I mentioned previously, which actually turned out to not last as well as I'd hoped. But yeah, really, really chuffed with the trophy colorway. The other color they do is black, which I don't think I've ever seen one in the flesh in black, but I potentially would have been quite tempted by that, but my S1000RR is black and it kind of gets dirty really easily. And I also, I think it's beneficial to be seen when you're on a bike, which is part of the reason I've added the lighting and whatnot. So yeah, really chuffed with what I did. No regrets there. Another question, are there any bits of spec I regret not getting? No, again, it's a short answer. So this bike has Comfort Pack, which gives you riding modes, heated grips, quick shifter, which I'm very glad I got. And then I also added cruise control, which, yeah, I absolutely love cruise control on bikes. I think, I don't know why more don't have it. It just makes life so easy rather than getting cramped up right hand or anything like that when you sit on the motorway. And I also added keyless ride. So I just have to have my key in my pocket and there's a button where the key barrel would usually be that I'll just press turning ignition on and off. I really like that. I know there's lots of people that don't, but I think it's maybe where they're not quite understanding how it works. It's actually, once you realise, it's really simple, really reliable. I haven't had a single issue with it. And how good that was is part of the reason I wanted to do the keyless nav mount, so that basically, other than if I want to take the seat off, which isn't very often, I have no need to get the keys out of my bag or jacket or wherever I keep them. I just jump on it and go. So I absolutely love that. The options I didn't get were SOS cooling and Enduro Pro. Enduro Pro we've covered. I think I've done my own twist on it. So it would have been a waste of money to go for it, other than maybe the chain upgrade, but not really a big deal. And the SOS cooling, I really like that idea. And I think there's a lot to be said for having something like that on a bike, where if you do have an accident, you're not necessarily going to be able to use your phone or be found or anything like that. There's some really good apps you can get now, which I should probably get one of. But the issue with it is that where I do a lot of off-road with this, I do unfortunately drop it quite a bit, or will clatter over stuff, which would probably trigger the SOS call, which I really don't want. I don't want to be wasting valuable resources on stuff like that when I'm generally fine, and I've probably just dropped my bike at a few miles an hour on some mud. I also had Prep for GPS, which I mentioned in the video of picking this bike up. It's not something I would have actually spec'd until I realised just how good the offerings from people like Chiggy and Inov are in terms of being able to then run CarPlay and have a screen that basically does everything you could possibly want, that all clips to the factory nav mount. Potentially, obviously, getting prep for nav is a waste of time when I've then thrown it away and added the newer keyless style. But yeah, really glad that opened my eyes to some of the products out there, and I got to use them more myself that we now sell. So, you know, it's one of those things that I've been able to try and test things that I potentially wouldn't have bothered with otherwise, and wouldn't have realised what I was missing out on. Servicing and warranty. I have had this bike serviced early, so I had it done after my Portugal trip, mostly because that was such a dusty trip. It wasn't due a service at that point. I can't remember exactly when the service intervals are supposed to be, but I took it down to Group 1 Brighton early for that. But yeah, there haven't been any particular issues. I did have on the left switch gear, the traction control button would kind of end up a bit sticky, and also the cruise control, where you flick it across to turn the cruise control on, sometimes it wouldn't quite click all the way across. I don't know if that was because of debris or anything, but that was replaced under warranty, sort of no questions asked, which was really impressive. And yeah, just really nice that BMW got your back when you're spending a fair bit of money. Yeah, other than that, I haven't really been through any particular service items other than a set of rear pads. Off-roading, you're using the rear brake a hell of a lot, and naturally you're going to start wearing through it. There's another issue which we'll discuss in a moment as well that may have not helped with that. But yeah, this bike has been really cost effective to run, despite the fact it's brand new and the fact I've absolutely hammered it for 6,000 miles. So yeah, impressed with that. We've discussed lots of the good. Now, naturally, there's a few things that aren't quite so good about the F900GS, and they're things that have generally been covered in other videos, but I will tell you my own report on that. A few people have mentioned the wheels, mostly the front more than the back, but where they have the tubeless sort of design and the spokes on the outside, they're quite easy to catch and mark, which is kind of nature of the beast. I don't think it's really a complaint as such, but yeah, I have caught the front and rear on stones and things like that a couple of times. The actual main complaints I have, in a way, are the foot controls. So on this side, you've got the gear selector, which is a fairly sturdy cast aluminium piece, and then it has a bolted in adjustable little actual peg for your foot. The rubber on that, I find, wears really quickly and splits, and then basically falls off. Again, I'm wearing big enduro boots, doing off-roady stuff. Maybe it's just hard use. I'd be interested to know if anyone else found the same, you know, potentially whether we might look at developing a product that's a sturdier polyurethane or something like that for that, because it's a little bit irritating where it essentially goes over the peg, the end splits, and then where your toes are nudging it, you're basically breaking the end off that rubber rather than actually changing gear, which is a little bit irritating. I have also snapped the little peg once, which I clipped a log doing a fair amount of speed, so I don't know if I can fully blame it for that. And the story is relatively similar on this side of the bike with the rear brake lever or pedal or whatever you'd like to call it. So I know plenty of other people with these have found that it's quite exposed and it's essentially a piece of pressed steel, which is maybe good because then it bends rather than breaks, but I find that I bend it really quite a lot. I haven't broken it yet, but as you can probably see on camera, it's definitely not the shape it's supposed to be, where I've had to bend it back a load of times, and in all honesty, I expect I will break it at some point. The having to bend it back isn't so much of a problem. Obviously, it can mean that it ends up sat slightly higher and it's a bit awkward to bend back and your foot feels a little bit different. But the actual really main problem I've found with that is that the spring clip that goes onto the brake light switch is really only on a very small area of that brake pedal. So when you bend it, it quite easily goes off the switch, and then your bike thinks that it's got a brake light fault, comes up on the dash, has a bit of a fit, and is really quite irritating. And it means that your brake lights are on all the time, which, as anyone with a newer BMW will know, if your brake lights are on and you indicate when they've got these combined LEDs, it can mean your LED indicators aren't that easy to see. Not the end of the world if you're off-road, as this bike spent most of its life, but it's definitely a bit of a design flaw, and one that we're going to be looking at, both in terms of the pedal itself and making sure that there's a bigger contact patch for that switch. It's just a frustrating little niggle for a bike that is essentially designed to do quite a bit of off-road type stuff. But again, nature of the beast perhaps, but watch this space. We'll try and think of some products to help with the problem and help some fellow F900GS owners get the most of their bikes off-road. Plans for the future with this bike. I mentioned already that I've got chain and sprocket set coming, so that's an AFAM set that will be on our website. So I look forward to kind of showing that. It's essentially going to be a more durable chain. It's nothing really that exciting, but it'll be good to see how I get on with that, considering this chain's lasted 6,000 miles and is hammered. Other than that, I don't have any huge plans for it. I'd quite like to potentially look at some different lights for it. I've really liked the DL4s, but where there's more smart options coming out to work with the CAN bus network that Hex gives you, it'd be nice to experiment with that a little bit and kind of make the most of it. And I may also add a third rear brake light. Again, that can be plug and play with the Hex Easy CAN. Electronically, it's not a problem. And a very nice customer of ours, Nick, who's also got an F900GS and used to be is the landlord at what used to be my local pub. He has fitted one above the number, which actually looks really neat. So I might well do the same just to help with rear visibility and maybe take down some of the brightness on the brake lights on the combined indicators, which can all be done through coding on the Hex GS 911, just to basically make sure it's visible that A, when you're braking, and B, when you indicate and brake, it's all a little bit more separate without having to put too much clutter on the back of the bike. I've been toying with the idea of putting the rally seat on this, which is a taller seat for it, which I think would be more comfortable stood up off-roading, but I'm also not that tall, so this bike's kind of perfect height for me in terms of putting feet down when I have to. So I don't know if I'll necessarily do that, but yeah, I think the main thing would be potentially a bit of a light change up, maybe a little bit more crash protection in places, and the products we are potentially going to be working on very soon. But yeah, other than that, I really just want to ride it more and more and more. Keep toying with ideas of big off-road trips. I'm taking it to the Isle of Wight in September. Yeah, any excuse I can to ride it, I do. Other than when I get distracted by the 1150GS I've just bought. But yeah, I absolutely love this thing. It's just epic. So yeah, keep riding it is the main one, but I certainly always have tweaks.